The fact that the retaliation was very strong, but in all fairness, Israel unloaded a lot. And now I hear Israel just went out because they felt it was violated by one rocket that didn't land anywhere. That's not what we want, I'll tell you. And I'm telling you, I'm not happy about that, Israel, either. All I do is play both sides. I'm going now, as you know, to NATO. Some of you are going with me, and I think it's going to be successful. We'll see. I'll let you know.
Are you going to see the agreement? It's a new dawn in the Middle East. Thanks to the agreement you managed to achieve. What are your future plans for the region, for Saudi Arabia, Israel, Gaza, the hostages?
Look, you're asking me about women in the Middle East. It's getting a lot better. Things are happening at a high level. As you know, Saudi Arabia's done a really good job. It's coming out far faster than I thought. So we're very happy about what's happening with women in the Middle East.
No, I'm talking about a new dawn in the Middle East that you managed to achieve last night.
Yeah.
The region is going to a new place with this agreement. Can you tell us what's your future plans for Gaza, for the hostages?
Yeah. It's a new dawn. I appreciate the question. You're very nice. Who are you?
Thank you. I'm Neria Kraus from Israeli Channel 13 News.
Well, we have to have Israel calm down because they went on a mission this morning. I got to get Israel to calm down now.
Did you get to speak with the Prime Minister? Did you talk to Prime Minister Netanyahu last night?
I speak to everybody.
You urge both sides not to violate the ceasefire, but reports coming from the region suggest that the sides accuse each other for violating the ceasefire. So
I think they both violated it. I don't think I'm not sure they did it intentionally. They couldn't rein people back. I don't like the fact that Israel went out this morning at all, and I'm going to see if I can stop it. So as soon as I get away from you, I'm going to see if I can stop it, okay?
Have you spoken to him this morning? How confident are you that Iran is going to take the completely demolished?
I think it's been completely demolished. I think the reason we're here is because those pilots, those B-2 pilots, did an unbelievable job. And you know, the fake news, like CNN in particular, they're trying to say, well, I agree that it was destroyed, but maybe not that destroyed. You know what they're doing? They're really hurting great pilots that put their lives in the line. CNN is scum, and so is MSDNC. They're all, and frankly, the networks aren't much better. It's all fake news, but they should not have done that. Those pilots hit their targets. Those targets were obliterated, and the pilots should be given credit. They're not after the pilots, they're after me. They want to try and demean.
You don't believe that Iran can rebuild its nuclear program?
Iran will never rebuild its nuclear. From there? Absolutely not. That place is under rock. That place is demolished. The B-2 pilots did their job. They did it better than anybody could even imagine. They hit late in the evening. It was dark with no moon, and they hit that target with every one of those things, and that place is gone. But when I see CNN all night long, they're trying to say, well, maybe it wasn't really as demolished as we thought. It was demolished. You take a look at the pinpricks, and you see that place is gone. And I will say, I think CNN ought to apologize to the pilots of the B-2s. I think that MSDNC ought to apologize. I think these guys really, these networks and these cable networks are real losers. You really are. You're real losers.
Israel says that they violated the peace.
You're gutless losers. I say that to CNN because I watch it. I have no choice. I got to watch that garbage. It's all garbage. It's all fake news. But I think CNN is a gutless group of people, and the people that run it, nobody even knows it's been sold so many times, but the people that run it ought to be ashamed. MSDNC, a guy named Brian Roberts, he heads it. He's a disgrace. He's a weak, pathetic disgrace.
Israel says that Iran violated the peace agreement, the ceasefire agreement. Do you believe that Iran is still committed to peace?
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too.
Are you questioning if Israel is committed?
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what they're doing. Do you understand that?
We're joined live by Israeli MP Shelley Tal Meron, joining us currently, serving as a member of the Knesset for Yesh Atid. Shelley, you must have heard Donald Trump, US President, is blasting both Iran and Israel. He's saying particularly that he's not happy with the fact that Israel flew out its fighter jets and tried to drop bombs on Iran just this morning after his announcement of a ceasefire.
Yes, I'm hearing this as we speak, and it's been happening for the past half an hour or so, and so a lot of reports are coming out there. So I'm not sure what the exact facts are. I've heard President Trump, and we thank President Trump for all his efforts, for the United States for taking part of this amazing operation to destroy the nuclear weapons of Iran. I can tell you that this morning, or even more accurate to say, in the middle of the night, I went to the shelter 5 times in a row because we had sirens in Israel. That was just before the ceasefire took place. And I can tell you that after the ceasefire begun, we had sirens across the north of Israel at 10 o'clock in the morning. So there was a violation by Iran. As far as I know, Israel did not violate, but I don't want to say anything without knowing the exact facts. I can tell you that Israel is a democratic country. It abides by international law and, of course, agreements, and we respect President Trump's and his efforts to bring the ceasefire. And I think that Israel has achieved its goals during this war with Iran, and so we are prepared for the ceasefire.
Your defense minister said earlier today exactly what you were talking about, that there were missiles, another batch of missiles fired from Iran, and that Israel will respond. Can you tell me more of what exactly happened? Why do you believe that Iran violated the ceasefire this morning?
Well, I'll explain to the Indian people how it works here. Whenever ballistic missiles are being fired at the state of Israel, we have sirens going off across the country where the areas that we think that the missiles are going to hit. And so we've been getting used to running to shelters all day long and, of course, all night long. And tonight we had a lot of sirens going off. We hardly slept and we went to the shelter. And when the ceasefire had begun, it was quiet, but then 10 o'clock in the morning, we had sirens going off. So we know that there were missiles being fired. Now, I just want to say that I know that the missile that was fired after the ceasefire began did not cause any casualties. But this morning, we had 4 people killed in a missile attack to Beersheba, which is a southern city in Israel. It was a horrific attack, and we have a lot of wounded people there. And we've had almost 30 people killed since the beginning of the war with Iran from ballistic missiles being fired at us. Now, Iran was firing these missiles to civilians, to cities, not only to, military goals.
No, I understand that.
Earlier today,
I understand that, Shelley. But earlier today, your defense minister said that Israel will respond if Iran was to continue to violate the ceasefire, as he alleged. Is that the standing position of Israel, regardless what US President Donald Trump is saying? He's asking both to stop. He's accepting Iran also violated. But your minister said earlier today that if they do so, we will respond.
Well, first of all, I want to say, when there is an agreement and one side breaks the agreement, then of course there is going to be a response. I think any democratic country or any sovereign country around the world would respond in that manner. But in regards to what happened this morning, I'm hearing that President Trump just spoke with Prime Minister Netanyahu just now. And so I'm not sure what the result of this conversation is going to be. So I don't want to say something that is not accurate. I'm sure they will make decisions together, and I think it's in the best interest of all parties to reach this ceasefire and make it work.
There is a view in Iran that unless Israel stops, there is no possibility of Iranians accepting a ceasefire. As a country, are you prepared to stop?
Well, first of all, I just want to, say, Iran has been an enemy of Israel for decades. But, we have nothing against the Iranian people. We do not share a border. We do not have any issues with the Iranians. 40 years ago, we had amazing relations with Iran. It's just because of this regime, which is a fanatic regime of fundamentalistic Islamic groups that is controlling the people of Iran and holding the minorities. They're doing horrific things to minorities in Iran. And so basically, Iran is the one who started this war with Israel decades ago. We have nothing against them. We do not wish to have a war with Iran. The only problem was that Iran was really at the threshold of having a nuclear weapon and the ballistic missile plan that they were producing in very high speed. Now, this is an existential threat to the state of Israel.
I understand that. I understand that. I'll come to your objectives in just a bit. But, Shelley, you must understand that around the world, there's a lot of anxiety as far as this conflict is concerned. Everyone is breathing a sigh of relief with this ceasefire being announced. Israel being a much stronger military country, don't you think that some responsibility will lie with Israel to kind of back off as well?
First of all, as far as I know, Israel has agreed to the ceasefire. And I think that if you ask me, in my opinion, I think that it's going to come through and there is going to be a ceasefire. But I do want to emphasize again that, since October 7th, 2023, we've been attacked by so many fronts. We had Hamas at the Gaza Strip that basically invaded our borders unprovokedly. We had Hezbollah up north. We have the Houthis. We have Iran that attacked Israel a few times during this war with hundreds of missiles fired at Israel and drones, etc. And so Israel does not want to have war with the rest of the world. We want to live peacefully, but we have to protect our borders and the safety of our civilians. We cannot have a country declaring that they want to destroy and eradicate the state of Israel. And that is exactly what Iran is doing. But I do think that this ceasefire is going to come through.
My final question to you. Overall, you believe Israel is ready for this ceasefire? It's agreeable to this ceasefire as long as all parties hold? And Israel is also maintaining that its overall objectives of, diminishing the ballistic program in Iran and the nuclear program in Iran both have been achieved. But what's the road forward as far as nuclear cooperation is concerned?
First of all, yes, what you said is accurate. I think we achieved the goals of this war as we intended them to be, which is the nuclear weapon and the ballistic missiles. So we have done very well with the military achievements, and we're ready for this ceasefire. But we do have to look into the future. Any agreement that comes along now that will be agreed upon has to make sure that Iran is never again a nuclear state. And I think President Trump has said that this morning, that he will never allow this to happen again, because this is not only the safety of the state of Israel, this is the safety of the entire globe. Now, let's not forget that if Iran becomes a nuclear state, it's going to cause a nuclear arms race around the Middle East, and other countries will want to join in as well. That's not a healthy thing for the Middle East or the entire world. And I do think another perspective, which is very important right now, is to take this opportunity and end the war in Gaza and bring back our 50 hostages that are still in tunnels in Gaza. Over 626 days that our hostages are still there. We need to end that front as well.
Absolutely. No, I agree with you on that front. Shelley, thanks a lot for joining us. What we do know is that Prime Minister Netanyahu has conveyed to Donald Trump that, yes, Israel will stop at its end. It remains to be seen, of course, just how long both sides will refrain.
Thank you for having me, and I'm happy to hear that what I said actually happened.
Thanks a lot for joining us.
Thank you.
And shifting our focus now to some more breaking news coming in after calling out both Iran and Israel for the ceasefire violation. Donald Trump is currently speaking with Benjamin Netanyahu. Donald Trump has said that, do remember, we've been playing out that reaction just a few minutes ago. You heard the President of United States say very clearly that Israel unloaded immediately after agreeing to a ceasefire, also urged Israel not to drop the bombs, but we're learning that this is the conversation that's taking place between President Donald Trump and Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, right after this comment came in from POTUS. He, remember, did also parallelly send out a message to Iran and how Iran will never be able to build its nuclear program. Going across to Akanksha Swaroop, who joins us with more details. Interestingly, there are reports doing the rounds, Akanksha, that Benjamin Netanyahu told Donald Trump that he could not cancel the attack and that some response was needed to Iran's violation of the ceasefire. And as on expected lines, these kind of updates are going to trickle in. What do you make of that comment that came in from President of the United States of America, and what's been happening the last few minutes alone?
Israel unequivocally, perhaps for the first time ever since Israel began their airstrikes on Iran. And it's interesting because he's condemned Israel so unequivocally, saying that I am unhappy with Israel, and even more unhappy with Israel when compared to Iran, because he said that I gave them 1 hour to apply to the ceasefire, and Israel went ahead and used their greatest payload on Iran, and that they should not have. So perhaps that also counters the claims that were being made by the IDF so far, that it was Tehran which was targeting Israel with their continuous barrage and volley of missiles. But having said that, it is now incumbent upon the Israeli Prime Minister to dial down the tensions between Israel and Iran, as has been indicated by the US President. He's in fact gone on to urge the Israeli Prime Minister that it is time for Israel to now call their pilots back home. He also prided himself in sending those B-2 bomber jets to deploy the bunker busters as far as the 3 key nuclear facilities in Iran were concerned. So according to the US President, the ceasefire should have been plied with by Iran and Israel both. He's also maintained that Iran's nuclear program is completely decimated, and that Tehran will not be in a position to pursue this nuclear program any further. And when he's displaying so much confidence, and he's also tom-tomming the achievement, something that he's always maintained, that this entire operation by the United States was a huge success. It's also an indication to Israel that they need to dial down the tensions and that they need to now bring Iran back to the negotiating table. The Israeli Prime Minister, coming up with that defense, also goes on to indicate the kind of pressure the US President has exerted over the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. You just shared with us with regards to what Netanyahu had to say, that it was too late for him to perhaps call that attack, take that entire attack back, and that is something which is very crucial now, because Iran will respond. This is something that the Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has already made it clear, that if Israel continues to attack, Tehran will continue to respond. And US, remember, is in a very tricky position, given that the attack that took place on their airbase in Al Huda in Qatar has already now made a statement. It is the other US military bases currently that also are being threatened, and US wants to dial down these tensions also to protect its own military interests across the Middle East.
Yes, and that's exactly the reason why we saw President Donald Trump blast both at Iran and Israel the way he did. We've heard that comment. We've been playing it out repeatedly because there are so many messages being conveyed by the President of the United States of America. Stay on with us, Akanksha. There's another update. We just spoke about this, so let's deep dive into what has been communicated by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who's told Donald Trump that he could not cancel the attack and that some response was needed to Iran's violation of the ceasefire. This, like I said, is a bit of information that is doing the rounds on social media. It's being cited by some news outlets. Going across to Akanksha Swaroop once again. This is one reaction that's come in, or one communication on part of Benjamin Netanyahu. The other communication has happened on Donald Trump's part. He's taken to Truth Social, Akanksha, and he says Israel is not going to attack Iran. So minutes into blasting Israel, he says, I have an assurance Israel is not going to go after Iran. All planes will turn around and head home, while doing a friendly plane wave to Iran. Has it become increasingly difficult for the world to buy this version by Donald Trump, given what happened the last few hours alone?
Remember, it's becoming a fight of he said, she said, and who blinks first. Because remember, going by what Donald Trump has been stating, it seems that he expected Israel to play the bigger person in this entire conflict, especially after the ceasefire was brokered in so painstakingly, not just by the United States, but more importantly by Qatar and the Qatari Emir. So what the US president is saying is that they should have dialed down the tensions, to which the Israeli Prime Minister has said that it was too late for him to cancel the attack, given that it was Iran that directed their missiles towards Israel even after the ceasefire was announced. So Israel very much holding their ground, as Prime Minister Netanyahu now maintaining that it was Tehran that continued to attack Israel even after the announcement was made by the US president, even after he sent out a second post on Truth Social asking for the ceasefire to be plied by both Iran and Israel. To quote him verbatim, he said that Israel's strike comes in response to Iran's launch of 2 ballistic missiles at Israel after the ceasefire of this morning. In its defense, Iran is of course going to maintain that there was a window given by the US president as far as the ceasefire was concerned. But now that the US president is exerting greater pressure through that phone call, and the fact that it is Prime Minister Netanyahu who's dialed the US president, also goes on to talk about how he is currently on the back foot, and there is pressure now being exerted over Tel Aviv by Washington, and perhaps this could lead Israel to take a step back. If not Iran, will Iran respect that move? Because let's not forget, the timing of this entire development is extremely significant. The NATO summit is about to happen. The US president gave that statement from the joint base Andrews, and he was departing for the NATO summit. It is at the NATO summit where the entire Iran-Israel conflict will be discussed. Remember, the European Union and US's NATO allies are of the view that they cannot afford a third front being opened when there's already a war going on in Ukraine, already another one in Gaza. We've all seen how this entire conflict has been extremely prolonged. Can NATO and EU afford another conflict? And not to forget the fact that EU has been playing a very crucial role. All of these NATO allies are also involved in those high-level talks that are currently taking place between EU and Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi.
Okay, very interesting scenario unfolding by the minute. Akanksha, stay on with us. Another bit of breaking news update that's just come in. The sound of 2 explosions that have been heard in Tehran is the latest bit we have for you. The Israeli Air Force carried out a small strike against an Iranian radar north of Tehran just a short while ago. This is being shared as per Israeli officials. The strike comes in response to Iran's launch of 2 ballistic missiles at Israel after the start of the ceasefire this morning. Going across to Akanksha once again. Akanksha, how do we put this on a broader timeline? Because like you said, this has become about he said, she said. You have a narrative and a counter narrative which is being built by the minute and is being conveyed alike to President Donald Trump, it seems. Whose version do we follow? What have you been able to establish of what Iran and Israel have claimed so far in terms of this kind of a military action?
So first things first, the official records say Iran is claiming that their missiles were directed towards Israel before the ceasefire had been announced by the United States president. On the other hand, Israel says that it was obligated into responding because Iran had directed those ballistic missiles towards Israel. Whoever directed those missiles first, that aside, the fact of the matter remains that the situation continues to remain extremely volatile. It's also testing the US president's patience, which is clearly waning as he takes off for the NATO summit. Remember, he will be posed with questions with regards to the airstrikes that were conducted by the United States on those 3 key nuclear facilities. At the same time, Bibi needs to be answered as well. He's been claiming that he's the liberator of Iran. Will the Israeli Prime Minister bow down to this ceasefire that's been brokered in by the United States, because as far as the Israeli Prime Minister is concerned, he's gone on to say that he will only calm down once Iran's nuclear program has completely ended, once there's liberation for the people of Iran, once the Iranian regime is completely diluted. Is that the end game for Iran that the United States is looking for? There's a sharp contrast over there, Kritsveed, because if you look at what the US Vice President J.D. Vance has had to say in an interview to NBC just a day ago, he maintained very firmly that US's war is not against the people of Iran or the Iranian regime. It is against the nuclear program which is being pursued by Iran. And today itself, the US president has gone on to say that it is the end of Tehran's nuclear program, that all of that satellite imagery goes on to indicate that Fordo's nuclear plant has been completely decimated. That only goes on to indicate that United States end goal as far as Iran is concerned, according to the US president, has been achieved. Is that something that the Israeli Prime Minister agrees with? Perhaps here's where the difference of opinion lies.
Oh yes, absolutely. And what's going to be worrying for President Donald Trump in particular is also going to be the fact that if at all these latest Israeli strikes aimed at Iranian radar system happened after Donald Trump claimed that Israel is not going to attack Iran any further, it indeed puts a question mark to the kind of mediation claim he's been making to the entire conflict. Akanksha, stay on with us. Let's talk about another bit of breaking news update that's just come in. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian told Qatar's Emir that Iran's missile strike was a response to US involvement in Israeli military actions and not intended as an attack on Qatar. Iranian media has been reporting this. The Iranian people will stand firm and defend their legitimate rights, is what the president of Iran has stated in the latest. He also added that Iran is not like Gaza, Lebanon or Syria, places that can be destabilized with a few attacks. So that's the comment coming in from the Iranian president. Akanksha continues to stay on with us. And this has really been the tone and tenor from the political leadership in Iran since the beginning of this conflict, isn't it, Akanksha?
I'm glad you said that, Kritsveed, because that's exactly what Ayatollah Khomeini had to say just hours ago when he said that those who know Iran and the history of Iran are perfectly aware that Iran does not give up so easily. And that in itself is an indication that Iran will perhaps come up with military responses which Israel will remember, because as you just highlighted, what Iran has said to the Qatari Emir is only an indication that they cannot be compared to a Syria, Lebanon or even Gaza, going on to indicate that that Iran is not going to be treated as vulnerably as Gaza or Lebanon and even Syria have. At the same time, several foreign policy analysts are talking about how Saddam Hussein's downfall is a living testament to the history of Middle East, and how as far as ISIS is concerned, that sprang up once they did away with Saddam Hussein in Iraq. And now the same seems to be happening in neighboring Iran. Can the international stage or community sort of afford this kind of happening? Because doing away with the Iranian regime or the Ayatollah, who's in fact been ruling Iran since the 1980s, is not going to be a task which will be achieved overnight. We've seen the kind of clout the Ayatollah wields not just over the Iranians but over the Shiite population across the globe, including India, including Pakistan, including Qatar, including all of those countries which are home to the Shias. So they look up to the Ayatollah not just as a political figure but also as a spiritual, religious leader. And so to do away with the Ayatollah regime is going to be an excruciating task, one that will come with its set of ramifications, and that is something perhaps the US president is also perfectly aware of. So even if they are talking about an Iranian regime, we'll have to see the kind of tectonic shift that takes place. Yes, there's a power shift that's being challenged at the moment, but what's going to lead to that power shift? Is Israel and the United States competent enough to lead to that? Or are those pro-democracy, pro-human rights protests that have been plaguing Iran since 2022 going to usher in that change? Because many are of the view that they don't want monarchy to replace this kind of hegemony. They want democracy to prevail.
But there is a reason why we're seeing the political class in Iran reiterate this time and again. Once again, the Iranian president making it amply clear that we're not going to be defeated by a few strikes. Stay on with us, Akanksha. Speaking of Iran, Iranian media is also reporting as we speak that the northern city of Babol-Sar is being attacked by Israel. So another claim coming in the latest by Iran. Just a few minutes ago, we spoke of how Tehran claims that 2 explosions were heard in Tehran. The Israeli Air Force carried out a small strike against an Iranian radar north of Tehran, is what Israeli officials also confirmed. Going across to Akanksha on that note once again. Akanksha, the military exchange just doesn't seem to be dying down despite repeated warnings, claims, assurances coming in from the President of the United States of America.
Right. Babol-Sar is a city in the north of Iran for the benefit of all our viewers, Prithveen. And as we've been discussing, does the Israeli Prime Minister agree with what the US President is saying? Is the Israeli Prime Minister contented with what has happened in Iran so far? Because remember, let's also talk about the attack that took place at one of the leading prisons, which is known to be the black hole of the Iranian justice system, that is the Evin prison. And that was a symbolic strike as far as that entire prison strike was concerned. And the Israelis said that this will expose the oppressive regime of the Ayatollah, because inside that jail, all of those who are incarcerated are intellectuals, are environmentalists, are human rights activists who are inside that jail. And so it was a symbolic strike. And why I'm talking about it right now is because Bibi or Netanyahu is tom-tomming himself to be that great liberator of Iran who will ensure that democracy prevails. Perhaps that's also what the US President alluded to when he said that we are very happy with what's happening now to the women in the Middle East, because he referred to Saudi Arabia. We all know that MBS is now opening up the Saudi economy. Yes, they were clamping down on various women's rights, but there seems to be a gradual change. Even in Iran, women are now stepping forward. They are protesting against the mandatory veiling laws over there in Iran. It all began with the protests against Masha Amini in 2022. So important to highlight that will Netanyahu stop with this entire conflict at all or not? Will there be any pause? Will there be any end to the conflict currently that's taking place? Will the ceasefire that the US President is talking about so firmly have any impact or effect on the Israeli Prime Minister? That question, of course, remains unanswered. Clearly, Israel is not playing with that ceasefire, because as you are highlighting and sharing, the attacks are happening and Israel continues to attack despite that phone call that the Israeli Prime Minister has just had with the US President.
Oh yes, absolutely. The story is developing fast. In the latest, another White House reporter for CNN has made a big claim of how a White House official communicated to her that President Donald Trump was extremely firm and direct with Prime Minister Netanyahu about what needed to happen to sustain the ceasefire. Thank you, Akanksha, for that. For more on this developing situation, let's cut across to CNN Live.
The president lashed out at Iran and Israel, really especially Israel, accusing both sides of threatening the ceasefire that he helped to broker just hours after it went into effect. He's on his way right now to a NATO summit in the Netherlands. Joining us now is Congressman Scott Perry, a Republican from Pennsylvania, a member of the Foreign Affairs and Intelligence Committees. Congressman, thanks so much for being with us. The president expressed his frustration with both Iran and Israel. He was more livid with Israel than I have heard him before. What is your view of the Israeli strikes? Hang on. What is your view of the actions that Israel took after the ceasefire was announced and then heading into the morning?
I think, unfortunately, it was probably probably to be expected. They knew what the moment of the ceasefire, at least as negotiated, would commence, but they also wanted to make sure that they maximized the amount of time that they had to ensure that the nuclear capabilities, the warfighting and the terrorist activities of Iran were minimized. And they took that opportunity. And unfortunately, like I said, I think that was likely to be expected. We've seen that in other ceasefire situations. And let's face it, while the deal was brokered, the ceasefire is generally more advantageous to Iran than it is to Israel. And it's always the one that is losing the fight that requests the ceasefire, not the one that is winning the fight. So it is an unfortunate kind of turn of events, but it should not be unexpected.
The ceasefire is more advantageous to Iran, you say. You're on the Intel Committee, so you see a lot of things that we don't. But over the last 12 days, what was accomplished in terms of trying to degrade Iran and their nuclear capabilities?
Well, that is the point of this whole thing, that America in particular does not have an argument with the people of Iran. We wish and we hope that they can realize their freedom, and we stand in solidarity with them in that. But we do take issue with the world's greatest terrorist state having that nuclear capability and being able to deliver that anywhere on the globe, particularly to Israel and the United States of America or interest abroad. And what America had carried out ensured that capability no longer exists in any time where there would be a crisis of time. In other words, where you would have to make a decision under duress because they were able to do it without notice. That capability no longer exists.
Let me ask two follow-ups on that. What's the status of the enriched uranium inside Iran right now?
Well, I think that's a moving target. Obviously, Iran, like North Korea, is one of the most restrictive countries on the planet for any kind of eyes on from outside of Iran. So I doubt that there is, as much as Israeli intelligence is very productive, they have eyes on in Fordow itself. So it's very difficult to completely assess what the status of that is. I think we're going to learn that over the next weeks and months. But I think the point is their capability has been significantly degraded. However, there is still a marginal threat, because the real thing is that Iran cannot have a nuclear capability at all. They're a terrorist nation and they can't have that capability. So how far do you let them get? And I would suggest that they can have no nuclear capability that's not for civilian purposes, and none of this has ever been for civilian purposes.
फ्यूचर में मैं
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
But I'm not happy that Israel's going out now. There was one rocket that I guess was fired overboard. It was after the time limit and it missed its target. And now Israel's going out. These guys got to calm down yesterday. I didn't like the fact that Israel unloaded right after we made the deal. They didn't have to unload. And I didn't like the fact that the retaliation was very strong. But in all fairness, Israel unloaded a lot. And now I hear Israel just went out because they felt it was violated by one rocket that didn't land anywhere. That's not what we want, I'll tell you. And I'm telling you, I'm not happy about that, Israel, either. Iran will never rebuild its nuclear. From there? Absolutely not. That place is under rock. That place is demolished. I don't think so, but I'm not happy that Israel's going out now. There was one rocket that I guess was fired overboard. It was after the time limit and it missed its target. And now Israel's going out. These guys got to calm down. It's ridiculous. I didn't like plenty of things I saw yesterday. I didn't like the fact that Israel unloaded right after we made the deal. They didn't have to unload. And I didn't like the fact that the retaliation was very strong. But in all fairness, Israel unloaded a lot. And now I hear Israel just went out because they felt it was violated by one rocket that didn't land anywhere. That's not what we want, I'll tell you. And I'm telling you, I'm not happy about that, Israel, either. All I do is play both sides. I'm going now, as you know, to NATO. Some of you are going with me, and I think it's going to be successful. We'll see. I'll let you know.
Are you going to be the agreement? It's a new dawn in the Middle East, thanks to the agreement you managed to achieve. What are your future plans for the region, for Saudi Arabia, Israel, Gaza, the hostages?
Look, you're asking me about women in the Middle East. It's getting a lot better. Things are happening at a high level. As you know, Saudi Arabia's done a really good job. It's coming out far faster than I thought. So we're very happy about what's happening with women in the Middle East.
No, I'm talking about a new dawn in the Middle East that you managed to achieve last night.
Yeah.
The region is going to a new place with this agreement. Can you tell us what's your future plans for Gaza, for the hostages?
It's a new dawn. I appreciate the question. You're very nice. Who are you?
Thank you. I'm Neria Kraus from Israeli Channel 13 News.
Well, we have to have Israel calm down because they went on a mission this morning. I got to get Israel to calm down now.
Did you get to speak with the Prime Minister? Did you talk to Prime Minister Netanyahu last night?
I speak to everybody.
You urge both sides not to violate the ceasefire, but reports coming from the region suggest that the sides accuse each other for violating the ceasefire. So
I think they both violated it. I don't think I'm not sure they did it intentionally. They couldn't rein people back. I don't like the fact that Israel went out this morning at all, and I'm going to see if I can stop it. So as soon as I get away from you, I'm going to see if I can stop it, okay?
Have you spoken to him this morning? How confident are you that
I think it's been completely demolished. I think the reason we're here is because those pilots, those B-2 pilots, did an unbelievable job. And you know, the fake news, like CNN in particular, they're trying to say, well, I agree that it was destroyed, but maybe not that destroyed. You know what they're doing? They're really hurting great pilots that put their lives in the line. CNN is scum, and so is MSDNC. They're all, and frankly, the networks aren't much better. It's all fake news, but they should not have done that. Those pilots hit their targets. Those targets were obliterated, and the pilots should be given credit. They're not after the pilots, they're after me. They want to try and demean.
You don't believe that Iran can rebuild its nuclear program?
No, Iran will never rebuild its nuclear. From there? Absolutely not. That place is under rock. That place is demolished.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
But I'm not happy that Israel's going out.
Welcome back. We return with a breaking news update. Do remember, several surveillance exercises have been ongoing since the fatal Air India crash at Ahmedabad on the 12th of June. And in the latest, we're learning that DGCA teams led by the Joint Director General carried out one such comprehensive surveillance during night and early morning hours at major airports, including Delhi and Mumbai airports. They have found multiple cases with reported defects reappearing several times on aircrafts, indicating ineffective monitoring and an inadequate rectification action. Ground handling equipment such as baggage trolleys, BFL, were found unserviceable. So we are tracking this exclusive story on the kind of defects in the entire aviation ecosystem that have come to light during this exercise, surveillance exercise carried out by DGCA, and which Srivastav joins us with more details on the same. And with this kind of a surveillance is not limited to maintenance work alone. We're talking about a host of services that take place on a daily basis at some of these major airports. What has this particular team of the DGCA found out? Give us more details.
DGCA has stepped in since the very first day, and they are overseeing all the investigation. Not just that, but also has launched a crackdown on the airlines and how the airlines maintain the upkeep of the aircraft and the technical staff. Along with that, they also carried out a detailed survey at the major airports in India, and including Delhi and Mumbai, the busiest of the two airports. And they have found multiple lapses, not just lapses like you mentioned on ground services and the technical staff, but also lapses that could directly lead to passenger safety. Now, if I read out straight from the document, there are multiple lapses. The DGCA has gone on to say that multiple cases wherein the reported defects reappeared many times on the aircraft, indicating the ineffective monitoring and inadequate rectification action on the defects and repeated defects. They've also gone on to say that the life-saving vest that is underneath the seat, that was also not found kept appropriately. In fact, they have also mentioned that at one of the airports, center line marking of the runway, that was observed to have been faded, which needs to be maintained timely for the aircraft to land properly on the airport. In fact, DGCA teams had also found that a domestic kind of a scheduled carrier was held up due to worn tires, and only once rectified, it was allowed to be airborne and go allowed further for operations. In fact, during the maintenance of the aircraft, the work order was also found not to be being followed, and defect reports generated by the aircraft system, they were also not found recorded in the technical logbook. So these are severe lapses that have been recorded, and also this was a team led by joint director level officers that had carried out this detailed survey at different airports, the busiest airports including Delhi and Mumbai as well. Now, based on this report, further airlines will be served notices as to rectify the issues that have been found. Also, the airports have now came under the radar for the technical lapses and the lapses that are operational, they're relating straight to the aircraft safety and that to the passenger safety.
Oh yes, absolutely. These do highlight ineffective monitoring, inadequate rectification. The question one is left wondering is, why is it that all of these loopholes, lapses went unchecked so far? And with many thanks for joining us with those details. You're watching Nation at 5. We head into a short break. We'll be right back.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
But I'm not happy that Israel's going out now. There was one rocket that I guess was fired overboard. It was after the time limit and it missed its target. And now Israel's going out. These guys got to calm down yesterday. I didn't like the fact that Israel unloaded right after we made the deal. They didn't have to unload. And I didn't like the fact that the retaliation was very strong. But in all fairness, Israel unloaded a lot. And now I hear Israel just went out because they felt it was violated by one rocket that didn't land anywhere. That's not what we want, I'll tell you. And I'm telling you, I'm not happy about that, Israel, either. Iran will never rebuild its nuclear. From there? Absolutely not. That place is under rock. That place is demolished. I don't think so, but I'm not happy that Israel's going out now. There was one rocket that I guess was fired overboard. It was after the time limit and it missed its target. And now Israel's going out. These guys got to calm down. Ridiculous. I didn't like plenty of things I saw yesterday. I didn't like the fact that Israel unloaded right after we made the deal. They didn't have to unload. And I didn't like the fact that the retaliation was very strong. But in all fairness, Israel unloaded a lot. And now I hear Israel just went out because they felt it was violated by one rocket that didn't land anywhere. That's not what we want, I'll tell you. And I'm telling you, I'm not happy about that, Israel, either. All I do is play both sides. I'm going now, as you know, to NATO. Some of you are going with me, and I think it's going to be successful. We'll see. I'll let you know.
Are you going to see the agreement? It's a new dawn in the Middle East. Thanks to the agreement you managed to achieve. What are your future plans for the region, for Saudi Arabia, Israel, Gaza, the hostages?
Look, you're asking me about women in the Middle East. It's getting a lot better. Things are happening at a high level. As you know, Saudi Arabia's done a really good job. It's coming out far faster than I thought. So we're very happy about what's happening with women in the Middle East.
No, I'm talking about a new dawn in the Middle East that you managed to achieve last night.
Yeah.
The region is going to a new place with this agreement. Can you tell us what's your future plans for Gaza, for the hostages?
Yeah. It's a new dawn. I appreciate the question. You're very nice. Who are you?
Thank you. I'm Neria Kraus from Israeli Channel 13 News.
Well, we have to have Israel calm down because they went on a mission this morning. I got to get Israel to calm down now.
Did you get to speak with the Prime Minister? Did you talk to Prime Minister Netanyahu last night?
I speak to everybody.
You urge both sides not to violate the ceasefire, but reports coming from the region suggest that the sides accuse each other for violating the ceasefire. So
I think they both violated it. I don't think I'm not sure they did it intentionally. They couldn't rein people back. I don't like the fact that Israel went out this morning at all, and I'm going to see if I can stop it. So as soon as I get away from you, I'm going to see if I can I think it's been completely demolished. I think the reason we're here is because those pilots, those B-2 pilots, did an unbelievable job. And you know, the fake news, like CNN in particular, they're trying to say, well, I agree that it was destroyed, but maybe not that destroyed. You know what they're doing? They're really hurting great pilots that put their lives in the line. CNN is scum, and so is MSDNC. They're all, and frankly, the networks aren't much better. It's all fake news, but they should not have done that. Those pilots hit their targets. Those targets were obliterated, and the pilots should be given credit. They're not after the pilots, they're after me. They want to try and demean.
You don't believe that Iran can rebuild its nuclear program?
No, Iran will never rebuild its nuclear. From there? Absolutely not. That place is under rock. That place is demolished.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
But I'm not happy that Israel's going out now. There was one rocket that I guess was fired overboard. It was after the time limit, and it missed its target. And now Israel's going out. These guys got to calm down yesterday. I didn't like the fact that Israel...
Welcome back. We return with a shocking case that's come to light from Delhi's Ashok Nagar, where a 19-year-old girl was allegedly pushed off the rooftop of her own house. This happened on Monday morning, according to officials. The accused has been identified and a manhunt is underway. The case under attempt to murder and criminal intimidation has been registered at Jyoti Nagar police station. The victim had reportedly gone to the rooftop to fill water when an argument broke out with the accused, who was known to her. Her father has also claimed that the accused was in disguise. He allegedly tried to choke her and upon being confronted by the father, threw her off the roof and fled the scene. Security forces, including Rapid Action Force, has been deployed in the area to maintain law and order situation there, given how locals are agitated over the incident. We've tried to pick up a few reactions on this story. The shocking story coming in from Delhi. Listen in.
क्या हुआ था कल? आप कहाँ थी? आपको कैसे जानकारी मिली?
मैं सो रही थी, एकदम मोहल्ले वालों की आवाज़ सुन के उठी। 4th फ्लोर पर भैया रहते हैं, उन्होंने बोला कि उठो, देखो तुम्हारी बहन को पीछे फेंक दिया किसी ने। मैं उठ के पीछे गई तो उठ भी नहीं पा रही थी मेरी बहन।
ये आप लोग को कैसे पता चला कि ये तौफीक है जो आया है?
हमने रिकॉर्डिंग देखी थी, कैमरे के पुलिस वालों ने दिखाई थी।
कौन है ये लड़का? ये कैसे आपकी बहन को जानता है?
3 साल से हमारे घर आता जाता है। ये दोनों भाई थे, वो पहले भाई बना। उन्होंने कहा कि हमारे कोई बहन नहीं है, मैं तुम्हें बहन मानता हूँ। हम तीनों ने राखी भी बांधी उसके।
अच्छा, आप लोगों ने भी राखी बांधी थी? अच्छा,
हमें लगा कि औरों की तरह ये नहीं होगा। मेरे मम्मी पापा भी उसको अपना बेटे की तरह मानते थे, हमें नहीं पता था वो ऐसा निकलेगा।
आपकी बहन को परेशान कर रहा था क्या वो हाल फिलहाल में? कुछ ऐसा हुआ था?
1 महीने से परेशान कर रहा था, शादी करने को कह रहा था। मेरी बहन ने मना कर दिया तो उसको धमकी देता था, मैं तुझे मार दूंगा, तुझे कहीं का नहीं छोड़ूंगा मैं।
आपने अपने पेरेंट्स को बताया था? नेहा ने किसी को बताया?
उन्होंने मम्मी को बताया था। मम्मी ने फोन करके उसे समझाया भी कि देख ऐसे नहीं हो सकता, लेकिन हमें नहीं पता तो वो ऐसे कर देगा मेरी बहन के साथ।
Another shocking incident has been reported from the national capital. This time around, a 19-year-old Neha was thrown off the roof of a house itself. The person who has committed this entire crime was actually known to Neha and her family for the past many years. This incident has been reported from the area that falls under the Jyoti Nagar district. Over here, I'm standing at the exact spot from where this incident had happened. Neha was present over here. She was washing her clothes when the accused came in from the door right behind her. Initially, there was a scuffle that had broken out between them, and there were shouts that had happened from over here. Post that, the father of Neha came over here at the rooftop trying to gauge a sense as to what is happening. It is at this point that the accused Tawfiq, who was in a physical confrontation with Neha at that point, threw her away, and she fell right from this location to the ground, which is approximately 50 to 60 feet deep. Once she fell down, she had a lot of injuries. The father eventually reported this to the police, and the police eventually took her to the hospital. She was declared dead eventually. Now, this has created a lot of tension in this entire area of Jyotinagar. What is believed at this entire location is that Tawfiq, who was already known to Neha for the past 5 to 6 years, was a Rakhi brother to her as well. And it is at this point that over the last few years he started building pressure on the family of Neha and Neha herself, so that there could be a marriage or some other relation that could be built between them. But there was a strong resistance that continuously came in from the family and from the family members, and then finally the accused came to the rooftop wearing a burqa and then eventually threw her away and has fled from the spot.
And on to a CNN News 18 mega exclusive on key points of the NSA's intervention at the SCO meeting in Beijing. NSA Ajit Doval said India is deeply concerned about continued threat from terror groups designated by the UNSC, including Lashkar-e-Toiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, Al-Qaeda and its affiliates, also ISIS and its affiliates. In response to the barbaric terror attack in Pahalgam, India launched Operation Sindoor, is something that was conveyed by the NSA. India's actions were measured and non-escalatory was another reiteration that came through. Going across to Akash Sharma for a quick update. Yes, Akash, what more do we know?
So, these were the points that were in fact mentioned by NSA Ajit Doval, and, it was very much on the expected lines, because terrorism is something that has been the problem of India, and we know that how, in fact, in Pahalgam, we lost our civilians. So this is the reason why, in fact, NSA raised the issue of the designated groups like Lashkar-e-Toiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, Al-Qaeda, and in fact, ISIS and its affiliates. Also, we have been given to understand that NSA highlighted the need to, in fact, shut the double standards in the fight against terrorism between, and it was very much needed, because SCO is one platform where India has in fact time and again highlighted the sort of issues that are there that countries are struggling with. That terrorism is one prime issue, and these all issues were somewhere highlighted by NSA.
Oh yes, and that's the exact reason why there is no scope of a direct bilateral at the NSA or the Defence Minister level in Beijing at the ongoing SCO. With that, we come to the end of this show. Thanks for watching. Over to my colleague Shivani Gupta for Plain Speak.
Welcome everyone. Thanks a lot for staying with us. You're watching Plain Speak with me, Shivani Gupta. Congress MP Shashi Tharoor has once again locked horns with the Congress party. This time it's his opinion piece hailing India's diplomatic stand and foreign policy in the backdrop of Operation Sindoor that landed him in trouble with his base. His party has once again distanced itself, calling it his own opinion. This is just a latest flashpoint in what is now becoming a long history of friction. There seems to be no end to this, despite the fact that Operation Sindoor delegations have come back long ago. How is this making the Congress look? That's the big question. Tharoor is garnering accolades for his staunch stance in favor of the country. He has become the face of Indian diplomacy post Operation Sindoor, but his party is unhappy. The question is why? Barbs are being exchanged routinely and becoming more and more direct and acerbic. An airy calm prevails, leaving one wondering, until when will Congress crack the whip against Tharoor, or will he explore the many options he has once referred to? Given that no side is willing to snap ties, should Congress employ a different strategy? After all, how does it look that the party is unnerved just because their leader is praising India? It's certainly not a good look. We'll take that and more with our guest joining us in just a bit. But first up, take a look at this ever-widening rift. In his latest praise, Tharoor claimed that Operation Sindoor proved to be a turning point in India's foreign policy. Not only was the military action swift, but diplomacy too was equally decisive. He further added that 7 all-party delegations showed that India speaks with one voice He also highlighted how India's unity on terrorism sent a powerful signal to the entire world. He added India's message was stronger as it was politically inclusive, with members not just of the Congress party, but remember they were members of all different kinds of parties in India. Furthermore, he said parliamentary unity gave